So is there any danger of damaging the micro or the oral microbiome with things like mouthwash?
Yeah, well, there are pure chemicals ones. Of course, you don't want to use any of that. No, you have to find something really, I forget the brands, but you can go to health stores and find something good.
Great. And what about your thoughts on fluoride in toothpaste?
Oh, absolute, never, ever. Fluoride is a neurotoxin, and you sure don't want it in your mouth.
Great.
Yeah.
You.
Mm.
And I'm going to throw it to the audience real quickly for a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Evelyn, stay away from it and ask your question.
I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I heard Brian say that at the Institute you don't use any vinegar on food or as
Right.
as a drink. But there was an MD on this web conference who said that you could increase your nitric oxide by eating a handful of raw greens with balsamic vinegar. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, we don't put it on food. Of course, vinegar, if you want to take 2 tablespoons in a glass of water first thing in the morning, absolutely. It's a great kidney bladder cleanse, great for prostate problems. No, but we don't mix it with food because it will ferment everything you ate and delay your digestion and elimination. I mean, it's as simple as that. Yes, of course, any which way. Nose breathing makes more nitric oxide. We have products like Circulation Max that makes nitric oxide. Of course, the food that we eat also will make nitric oxide. So take the apple cider vinegar by itself. Don't mix it with food.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question is coming from Joe W. Please state what
Thank you so much. Joe from California. Anna Maria, I think you and Brian are the best natural experts, and Hippocrates the best place in the U.S. I don't think there's any doubt. Since you teach that raw and sprouted food reverses disease, and I know that's an academic question, but would you say that anything else is the cause of disease? Does eating cooked plants cause disease?
Yes, and I mean, look, the deal is, and thank you for asking, Joe. The deal is that we want ultimate nourishment. We want to nourish people with the ultimate ingredients, the vitamins, the proteins, the fats, the minerals, everything. So, of course, when I eat cooked food, it causes a medical term called leukocytosis, which means that my immune system actually have to attack it as if it was an invader. And there's no ifs or buts about that. Is that okay for most people? Well, yes, it's okay. But so Brian and I eat about 90% raw, 10% is cooked. I maybe do a squash. I bake a squash. We have a piece of that, or I soak and sprout some beans and I make hummus. Which you, by the way, can make raw or cooked, for that matter. It's when you overdo it, and it tends to be just cooked food. Of course, your immune system is going to say, how the heck am I going to take care of all that? And how am I going to digest it well when I really were meant for fresh, raw food? So yes, it is a part of problem. If it's a plant-based, it's much less a problem, of course, than if it was meat and chicken and fish and dairy products and the eggs that, people are consuming like crazy nowadays. For example, when colon cancer, rectal and anal cancer is #1 for people under 50 now, this is an epidemic, and this is absolutely food related.
Thank you. And you're talking about adipose tissue, brown fat. Where is brown fat stored on the body? And
mainly up here, shoulders, upper neck, upper here. That's why the babies are so cuddly and the little fatty there.
All right. So all the places where that make us feel fat, that's the white fat?
Yeah, it's here. No, it's right here.
Okay,
The
so
white fat sits here.
and
And
when
it was meant, It was meant to be, because the liver sits here by the last rib on the right side, and the liver would take and burn that when I didn't have food to eat. So now we have to burn that by doing the things, the sleeping, taking care of our thyroid, eating essential fatty acid, and working out. So that's the way.
And when we do things to lose the white fat, do we also lose the brown fat, or does that persist?
No, you're making brown fat to get rid of white fat. No, but brown fat is something you have to keep making, because you were born with it, but then it turns to white fat. So I have to keep making that for the rest of my life. That's why.
You said sleep and exercise contribute.
Sleep, resistant training, essential fatty acids, and take care of my thyroid. My dad, who's 96, works out, he walks, he does weights at home by himself. He eats a plant-based diet. He's as healthy as could be, totally independent.
Thank you. And what are nutrients that we used to get from our food that we're no longer able to, and therefore we should consider supplementing?
Oh, well, we don't get enough B12 from our food. So B12 is a soil-based bacteria. It's not just a vitamin. It's a soil-based bacteria, so you need to get the right thing. And that is something we say, if there's one nutrient that we want everybody to take, because it's pure brain health too. It's for the brain big time. So we want everybody to be on a good soil-based bacteria form of B12. Vitamin D, it's taken up by the sun and the skin. So vitamin D, if you do get, but most people live indoors. Most people don't get enough sunlight to make enough vitamin D. So that might be something you need to take. Enzymes to help your digestion. That's why it's a part of our core kit, that we take digestive enzymes before we eat. And now it's also for longevity. So, but I take selenium and iodine, and I take zinc, and I take magnesium, I take phosphorus sometimes. These are all 100% ionic minerals that, of course, the Adon, which is a good company that also has been many times at The Real Truth About Health. And by the way, I'm so grateful to be a part of The Real Truth About Health for the 11th year. So this is mind-boggling that what you guys are doing, and we're so grateful.
Thank you, and we're grateful to have you for all these 11 years. So thank you so much. And when we're considering taking supplements, should we just go ahead and take, the ones that you said, or should we go get tested and see what our levels are? What are your thoughts on the necessity to get, all of our biomarkers correct with regard to testing?
Absolutely. We do testing here. We have SpectraCell, and we have other gut tests that can be done. Absolutely. If you really want to know nitty-gritty, and not just the ones that we give you, because there could be others. I mean, absolutely, it's not a bad idea. But then you also need to have consultation with somebody who understands, because there is a lot of supplements that would do more harm than good.
What would be an example of a supplement that would do more harm than good?
Supplements that are totally processed and that are not, they have to be plant-based, and they have to be soil-based.
Thank you.
So that's, yeah.
And sometimes, even though we don't want to, sometimes we still have to take antibiotics. How do what's the best way to overcome that, or mitigate the damage to our microbiome and subsequently
Yeah, so of course life's going to happen, and sometimes you need to take it. Then of course you take probiotic. So, but we realize that the prebiotic is what we're eating here. That's all the sprouts. If you look at our buffet, I mean, it's the prebiotic. It's raw, and then probiotic will work. But if I just do probiotic and I'm still eating my chicken and fish, it's going to take a long time. It could take 6 months for it to recover. So if I want to speed it up, I get on a raw food diet. Absolutely.
And speaking about things like chicken, on top of the inherent dangers or challenges with eating animal products. Do the antibiotics that are put into the animals that we eat, does that go into our body and now it affects our microbiome from as an antibiotic?
Yes, of course it does. And so that's why you see so many people now with anal, rectal, and colon cancer. I mean, this is a big part of it. It's very sad because this is a serious disease. And so many people have come with these diseases and recovered. But, you know, usually it's surgery and chemo and radiation. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And you could have prevented it on a raw food, plant-based diet.
And is that specifically because of the antibiotics that is being put into our food, causing disruption to our microbiome?
Well, the foods that come in with antibiotic, the chicken, the meat, the cow meat, you know, and the eggs. I mean, eggs brings you even E. coli and salmonella. You know what they find in women when they have breast cancer, that the breasts that have cancer have E. coli and salmonella. And that comes from fecal. It doesn't come from spinach. It comes from fecal matter. So this is a big part of that meat too. What do you think happens in the slaughtering? There's no way. So many times they recall because they find E. coli and salmonella. They have to recall tons of eggs, tons of meat, tons of hot dogs, or you name it.
Thank you. And what are your thoughts on eating fermented food for gut health?
Yeah, and that has been great. We do sauerkraut and kimchi here at the Institute. So of course, most cultures in the world are eating some kind of fermented foods. So, you know, it's a part of our buffet for sure.
And so sprouts. So at Hippocrates, you guys sprout things like nuts and beans. Is that correct?
We sprout beans, we sprout everything. So on our buffet, you have sunflower sprouts, pea sprouts, buckwheat sprouts, you have bean sprouts, of course, and you have, of course, broccoli sprouts. That was so studied by Johns Hopkins, and they found that it has sulforaphane, and which is anti-cancer, top notch. And, you know, we sprout everything. We have beet sprouts that are gorgeous. And so we don't eat the beets. We eat the beet sprouts. It's fantastic. They're red, gorgeous. And of course, we have cabbage, radish, all kinds, you know.
And what kind of beans do you suggest people sprout? And what kind of beans do you suggest people avoid sprouting?
Well, we don't use black beans and soybeans. So what you see on our buffet, we do bean sprouts, we do lentil sprouts, chickpeas. I mean, if you like to sprout adzuki beans, they're perfect, and red beans, you name it.
And why do you avoid black beans and soybeans when you're
They're much harder to digest, and they also are making you much more acidic. And living in this time, the acidity helps virus to survive. And virus love an acidic condition in our body, and cancer eats virus for food. So it's a vicious circle. So we don't want to be acidic.
You know, one of the things, you know, soy is obviously a contentious issue. You know, there was the idea that there was phytoestrogens, and then that was kind of explained. But part of that discussion was the idea that populations that eat large amounts of soy tend to be protected from cancer. Do you find the opposite, or do you find something different at Hippocrates?
No, so there are parts of soy. There's a product we use called Helan, which is a fermented soy product. And there's a part of that is amazing for really anything, but a lot of people with cancer have used it, but people with arthritis and other things have used it too, because it's an immunobooster. Fermented soy like tempeh definitely can be helpful. It depends on what's going on in our life, and it has to be organic because it's genetic manipulated otherwise.
Right. And you mentioned that you don't sprout cashews and peanuts. Why do you avoid those nuts?
So we avoid them. The peanuts have an fungus, an aflatoxin that is a carcinogen, and cashews are much harder to digest for you. So almonds, of course, pecan, walnuts, filberts, you name it. It's so much easier. Then you have the seeds, and the seeds like sunflower seeds, sesame seed, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, you know, flax seeds like we just did here. These are amazing omega-3s, essential fatty acids, and complete proteins.
And so cashews are used a lot in vegan recipes, especially when you're making cheese sauces. Does soaking cashews, overnight make it easier to digest, or is that still problematic for digestion?
Yeah, somewhat, but I would alternate that with almonds and maybe put some pine nuts, because pine nuts makes everything creamy. So you could do the same with walnuts and pine nuts.
Okay.
And just skip it. Yeah.
And you talked about sugar and not putting any, you basically said, no sugars. What are your thoughts on date sugar?
So date sugar is sugar, like honey and maple syrup. I mean, it's sugar. Sugar is sugar. So we use stevia here. Stevia is a natural sweetener. It grows in South America like weeds, and it's been used as a sweetener for a long time there. And, it's that's okay. It's very sweet. If you know wheatgrass juice, I mean, it's kind of that sweet. So you don't need much at all.
So with regard to date sugar, from what I've learned, it's just pulverized dates. Is that still, even though it's a whole food, is it still problematic?
Well, and then it is for a lot of people today, because a lot of people are fighting fungus and allergies and cancer. So, for us, we kind of have to be maybe stricter than strict, because we want our guests to be successful. And, for us, we've learned, I mean, it's nearly 70 years. We're the oldest lifestyle. We created the lifestyle medicine, So it's, for us, it's like, I wouldn't say to have it.
Thank you. And you said that you have about 10% of your diet cooked, and you mentioned squash. Are there other things that are okay?
Yeah, sweet potatoes, beans, grains like millet, quinoa, amaranth, teff, buckwheat, all the gluten-free grains, beans, all the beans. I mean, I can make beautiful things. If for the 10%, I can make Mexican dinners. I just take different beans and I mash them with Mexican spices, and chop a lot of different vegetables, and there are tortillas that are organic, that are GMO free, and all of that, and that I can just have fun with. I make hummus, of course. My kids loved hummus, and it's been a staple in our home too when it comes to the cooked food. Although here at the Institute, we make raw hummus, and it's creamier than cream. It's fantastic. So I don't have to cook, really.
And do you sprout the beans before you cook them, or do you just cook the beans?
Yes, absolutely. I soak them overnight in a bowl, and then I sprout them, which you can do in the fridge if you like, without water, because now they've been soaked, and you could just leave them twice. I would leave them 2 days in the fridge, and then I cook them. And so now you broke down the fat to fatty acid, carb to simple sugar, and protein to amino acids. So this is it's so much easier to digest for you.
Okay, that's the first time I heard it, no pun intended, broken down that way. That that you're and all of the macros into more digestible fashion. So we've got about a minute left. If you'd like to leave us with what leaves you optimistic for the future with regard to getting the word out about this, and any final messages.
Well, I think that so much is coming this way about lifestyle, about longevity, that people are starting to look at what can I do to improve myself. And we have this beautiful movie now that's on YouTube that's called Wellness, A Journey to transformation. And, you know, and being with you guys, the real truth about health, and people have seen that year after year, all these speakers, which even though we might have a little bit different ideas about, but, you know, at the end of the day, we're going plant-based, right? And we have all seen what is happening when we don't. And it's not sustainable to eat animal food. And, you know, when people have to have a drive in Canada about not feeding wild animals or kind of food because it will kill them, that talks for itself. But then you think, well, maybe humans should say, don't eat human food, it will kill you. Let's start eating plant-based foods. And the kingdom of that is amazing. And take care of yourself. You know, that's what we always hope. We teach. It's a lot about teaching here at the Institute and taking care of ourselves. And you have to start with yourself first.
Great. Thank you so much, Anna Maria. So
thank you.
Thank you. If we can unmute the audience so they can share their appreciation, please.
Thank you, Anna Maria.
Thank you, Anna Marie.